Listen closely. That sound isn't a heartbeat. It's the moment someone unknowingly spent a Roosevelt dime worth hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars. Since 1946, millions of Roosevelt dimes have passed through American hands, but a small number were struck differently, with silver content, missing mint marks, rare errors, and key dates that collectors will pay serious money for today. In this video, I'm exposing valuable Roosevelt dimes you should never spend, including hidden error coins that most people overlook. Stay until the end, because the final dime on this list could be sitting in your pocket right now. If you're searching for rare US coins, real coin values, and pocket change treasures, subscribe to the channel, hit like, and let's see what your dime is truly worth. Coin number 1. What if I told you that a dime you've probably held in your hand before, small, ordinary, easy to ignore, has quietly shocked the entire coin collecting world? A dime that millions of Americans have spent without hesitation, dropped into vending machines, parking meters, and cash registers, never realizing what it truly was. The 1977 Roosevelt dime, with no mint mark, doesn't scream rarity at first glance. It doesn't shine with gold or sparkle with silver. And yet, under the right conditions, this unassuming coin transforms into something extraordinary, something powerful enough to stop collectors, investors, and auction houses in their tracks. For decades, Roosevelt dimes have lived in the shadow of flashier U.S. coins. Quarters get the headlines. Morgan dollars steal the spotlight. But quietly, patiently, the Roosevelt dime has been building a story of its own, especially the 1977 issues struck at the Philadelphia Mint. With no mint mark beneath the date, these dimes blended seamlessly into circulation, passing through countless hands unnoticed. That anonymity is exactly what makes them so dangerous to underestimate. In 1977, the United States Mint was focused on speed and volume. Inflation was rising, commerce was accelerating, and demand for circulating coinage was relentless. Millions upon millions of Roosevelt dimes poured out of the presses, intended for everyday use, not long-term preservation. Most were struck quickly, with little concern for perfection, and sent directly into circulation. This reality created a massive imbalance, an ocean of worn, ordinary coins, and a microscopic number of examples that survived in near-perfect condition. The Roosevelt dime's design is deceptively unforgiving. Franklin D. Roosevelt's portrait, sculpted by John R. Cynic, reveals weakness instantly. The hair above the ear, the jawline, the cheek, these areas lose detail almost immediately once a coin enters circulation. On the reverse, the torch, olive branch, and oak branch are even more vulnerable. Soft strikes, die fatigue, and planchet imperfections were common during this era, meaning truly sharp examples were rare from the moment they were struck. This is where the 1977 no mint mark dime begins to separate itself. Collectors don't chase this coin because it's old. They chase it because flawless survivors almost don't exist. The vast majority of these dimes were spent, worn down, scratched, and forgotten. Only a tiny fraction escaped circulation altogether, set aside by chance, preserved in rolls, mint packaging, or untouched collections. And among those survivors, only a microscopic handful retained the full brilliance, strike strength, and surface preservation demanded by elite grading standards. Condition rarity is the silent engine driving this coin's value. In circulated grades, the 1977 no mint mark Roosevelt dime is common. But as the grade climbs, availability collapses. Each step upward, MS65, MS66, MS67, filters out thousands upon thousands of coins. By the time you reach the highest mint state levels, the population becomes shockingly thin. At that point, you're no longer competing with casual collectors. You're facing specialists, registry set builders, and serious investors who understand exactly how rare perfection really is. Mint errors add another layer of intrigue. Some 1977 Philadelphia dimes escaped the mint with dramatic anomalies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, and doubling that can only be seen under magnification. These errors turn an already desirable coin into a one-of-a-kind artifact. Even subtle irregularities, when authenticated, can multiply value dramatically. These are the kinds of coins that hide in plain sight, dismissed for decades by people who never knew what to look for. What makes this coin especially compelling is its psychological trap. The absence of a mint mark feels normal. There's nothing about it that warns you. No bold letter. No immediate clue. It looks like every other dime you've ever seen. And that's why so many valuable examples were lost forever. The 1977 no mint mark Roosevelt dime punishes assumption and rewards attention. As the coin market has evolved, collectors have begun shifting their focus. Classic silver issues remain popular, but their prices have climbed beyond the reach of many newcomers. Modern condition rarities, once ignored, are now fiercely contested. The 1977 no mint mark dime sits at the center of this shift, a modern coin with an old-school scarcity profile at the highest levels. It represents a moment where modern minting met imperfect execution, creating rarity by accident rather than design. Professional grading changed everything. Once third-party grading services began certifying high-grade examples, the true scarcity of elite 1977 no mint mark dimes became impossible to ignore. Population reports revealed just how few coins met the strictest standards. With supply fixed and demand growing, prices began climbing. Quietly at first, then suddenly, then violently. Collectors who once passed over this coin started looking again, closer this time. Auction houses noticed, registry competitors took action, and the market responded in a way few people expected. What was once considered a forgettable modern dime became proof that condition, not age, defines true rarity. The defining moment came when a single extraordinary example crossed the auction block and rewrote expectations forever. In a result that stunned even seasoned professionals, the highest price ever recorded at auction for a 1977 Roosevelt dime, with no mint mark, reached an astonishing $150,000, permanently cementing this coin's place among the most valuable modern U.S. dimes ever sold. That result wasn't luck. It was inevitability. It was the collision of extreme condition rarity, relentless collector demand, and the realization that some treasures don't announce themselves. They wait. The 1977 no mint mark Roosevelt dime is no longer just a coin, it's a warning. A reminder that history, value, and fortune can exist in the smallest denominations, hiding in plain sight until the moment someone finally recognizes what they're holding. Coin number 2. Imagine holding a dime so ordinary, so familiar, that you wouldn't even pause before spending it. A dime that has passed through millions of American hands, slipped into pockets, drawers, and registers without a second thought. Now, imagine discovering that this exact coin, this unremarkable piece of pocket change, has become one of the most misunderstood and quietly valuable modern U.S. coins ever produced. This is the story of a 1983 P. Roosevelt dime, a coin that hides its importance behind its simplicity. At first glance, the 1983 P. Roosevelt dime doesn't look special. There's no silver shine, no dramatic mint mark, no obvious warning sign that says keep this coin. And that's exactly why it's dangerous to underestimate. Because while millions were made, almost none survived the way collectors need them to survive. What happened in 1983 created a perfect storm, one that permanently altered the future value of this coin. The early 1980s were a turning point for U.S. coinage. Rising metal costs, changes in minting priorities, and reduced public interest in saving coins meant one thing. Almost everything produced was meant to circulate immediately. By 1983, the U.S. Mint had stopped issuing traditional mint sets for collectors. That single decision changed everything. Suddenly, there was no official source of pristine, carefully preserved coins. Every 1983, P-dime was struck for circulation, and circulation is brutal. Coins intended for everyday use are handled without mercy. They collide with other coins, scrape against metal surfaces, and lose their original luster within days. For the 1983 P. Roosevelt dime, this meant that nearly the entire mintage was worn down before anyone thought to protect it. Bags were dumped, rolls were broken open, coins were spent, stacked, dropped, and forgotten. Perfection was never the goal, and that's why perfection became rare. The Roosevelt dime design exposes weakness instantly. Franklin D. Roosevelt's hairlines, cheek, and jaw are unforgiving. Even the slightest contact leaves marks that never disappear. On the reverse, the torch bands are especially vulnerable. Weak strikes were common, and full detail was the exception, not the rule. Many 1983 P-dimes left the mint already compromised by soft strikes or die fatigue, meaning high-quality examples were scarce from the very beginning. What makes the 1983 P-dime truly fascinating is that its rarity is invisible to the untrained eye. In circulated condition, it looks identical to countless other dimes. But as condition improves, the population collapses. Each grade jump eliminates thousands of coins. By the time collectors reach the highest mint state levels, they're no longer searching, they're competing. And competition changes value dramatically. Professional grading revealed the truth no one expected. Population reports showed just how few 1983 P. Roosevelt dimes survived with clean surfaces, strong strikes, and full original luster. Coins that most people once ignored suddenly became targets. Registries said builders needed them. Specialists hunted them. And prices responded accordingly. Mint errors added fuel to the fire. Some 1983 P dimes escaped with striking anomalies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, and doubling that could only be seen under magnification. These weren't intentional varieties, they were accidents of speed and pressure. And accidents, when authenticated, can be incredibly valuable. Each confirmed error transformed an ordinary dime into something unique, something irreplaceable. The lack of a mint mark doesn't signal rarity here, it signals origin. Philadelphia struck these coins in massive quantities, but quality control was inconsistent. Some dies were fresh and sharp, others were worn and tired. Coins struck early in a die's life often show incredible detail and eye appeal, while later strikes appear flat and lifeless. Finding one of the former is like finding order in chaos. As years passed, collectors began to notice something strange. While many modern coins were easy to locate in high grades, the 1983 P-dime wasn't. Dealers searched rolls. Collectors searched sets. Banks searched vaults. And still, truly elite examples remained elusive. This wasn't a coin that announced its scarcity. It revealed it slowly, reluctantly, through absence. Market psychology plays a powerful role here. Because the coin feels modern, people assume it's common. That assumption suppresses supply because fewer people bother to save or submit examples for grading. But demand doesn't care about assumptions. Demand follows data, and the data says this coin is far scarcer in top condition than anyone ever expected. The 1983 P. Roosevelt dime represents a shift in how rarity is defined. It proves that age isn't the deciding factor, survival is. A coin doesn't need to be centuries old to be rare. It only needs to survive where others didn't. And this dime survived an era when almost nothing was saved. Every time a high-grade 1983 P-dime appears on the market, it attracts attention. Collectors know the opportunity may not come again soon. Prices reflect urgency, not nostalgia. This isn't about history alone, it's about probability. The odds of another flawless example emerging grow smaller every year. What makes this coin especially powerful is its accessibility. It's still possible, however unlikely, that one remains hidden in an old roll, a forgotten collection, or a box untouched for decades. That possibility keeps collectors searching. It keeps interest alive, and it keeps the story unfinished. The 1983 P. Roosevelt dime teaches a lesson that echoes through modern coin collecting. Value doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it hides behind familiarity. Sometimes it waits until everyone stops paying attention. And sometimes it exists in the smallest denomination imaginable, quietly defying expectations. This coin isn't famous because it's flashy. It's important because it shouldn't exist the way it does. A modern dime with genuine scarcity at the highest levels challenges everything people think they know about collecting. It proves that mistakes, neglect, and indifference can create rarity just as effectively as intention. And that's what makes the 1983 P. Roosevelt dime so dangerous to ignore. Because while it looks like every other dime you've ever seen, it carries a truth most people never realize: some of the most valuable coins aren't discovered. They're overlooked. Coin number 3, no alarms went off. No headlines were written. And no one at the U.S. Mint stopped the presses. While the entire nation was distracted by celebration, history, and a once-in-a-lifetime anniversary, a small silver-colored coin quietly entered circulation. Unnoticed, underestimated, and misunderstood. This was 1976. America was celebrating 200 years of independence. Collectors were focused on quarters, half dollars, and dollars with bold bicentennial designs. And in the middle of all that noise, the 1976 D. Roosevelt dime slipped through the system, almost completely ignored. That silence is exactly what makes it dangerous. The 1976 D. Roosevelt dime doesn't announce itself. It doesn't carry a special reverse. It doesn't look commemorative. It doesn't demand attention. And because of that, millions of Americans treated it like nothing more than spare change. They spent it, dropped it, wore it down, and unknowingly erased most of the finest examples from existence. By the mid-1970s, U.S. coinage had fully transitioned into a utilitarian mindset. Coins were no longer keepsakes. They were tools. Inflation was rising, production was aggressive, and speed mattered more than perfection. The Denver Mint, responsible for striking the 1976 D-dime, was operating under pressure to meet demand, not to create future collectibles. The result was predictable: huge output, inconsistent strikes, and minimal attention to long-term preservation. This is where the story begins to turn. Because when nearly everything is made to be spent, anything that survives untouched becomes rare by default. The Roosevelt dime's design exposes flaws immediately. Franklin D. Roosevelt's portrait is deceptively complex. The hair above the ear, the cheekbone, the jawline, these areas lose definition almost instantly once a coin enters circulation. On the reverse, the torch is even more unforgiving. Weak torch bands, mushy details, and flat strikes were common, especially during high-volume years like 1976. A dime didn't need to circulate long to lose its sharpness. Sometimes it left the mint already compromised. That means truly sharp, fully struck 1976 D. Roosevelt dimes were scarce from the very beginning. Most people never noticed. They weren't supposed to. Collectors at the time were obsessed with bicentennial issues, bearing the dual date 1776 to 1976. Quarters, halves, and dollars were pulled aside, saved in rolls, hoarded in drawers. The dime? Completely overlooked. No special design meant no perceived importance. And that single assumption erased the future supply of high-grade examples almost overnight. Decades later, the consequences became impossible to ignore. As professional grading expanded and population reports grew, something strange emerged. While many modern coins from surrounding years appeared in healthy numbers at high mint state levels, the 1976 D-dime did not. Clean surfaces were rare. Full strikes were rarer. Original luster without heavy contact marks was exceptionally difficult to find. And at the highest grades, availability dropped to almost nothing. Condition rarity had quietly taken control. A circulated 1976 D-dime is common. But collectors don't compete for common coins. They compete for survivors. And survival, in this case, was brutal. Coins were dumped into bags, smashed together in counting machines, and handled endlessly in commerce. Each impact erased value. Each scratch eliminated another potential top-grade coin from the future market. What remains today is not a reflection of how many were minted, but how many endured. Mint errors add another layer to this story. Under intense production pressure, mistakes happen. Some 1976, D-dimes escaped with off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, cuds, and double details that went unnoticed for years. These are not manufactured rarities, they are mechanical accidents frozen in metal. And when authenticated, they transform a forgettable dime into a unique artifact. Even subtle errors matter. Slight doubling in lettering, unusual die polish lines, minor misalignments. To the untrained eye, these mean nothing. To specialists, they mean everything. Because rarity isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's microscopic. The Denver Mint's role is critical here. Unlike proof issues or collector-focused strikes, Denver dimes were made for speed. Dies were used longer. Quality control varied. Some coins were struck early in a die's life with exceptional sharpness and eye appeal. Others were struck late when detail was already fading. Finding one of the early, well-executed strikes today is like finding order inside chaos. And chaos defines the mid-1970s dime production era. As years passed, collectors began re-examining what they thought they knew. They realized that the 1976 D. Roosevelt Dimes sat in a blind spot, too modern to feel rare, too ordinary to feel important, yet demonstrably scarce in elite condition. Demand didn't explode overnight. It built slowly, quietly, driven by data, not hype. Registry set competition, accelerated everything. Once collectors needed top-grade examples to complete sets, the pressure increased. Every auction appearance became an event. Every new high-grade discovery reshaped expectations. Prices rose not because of age or metal content, but because of absence. You can't buy what doesn't exist in quantity. This coin challenges the way people think about value. It proves that a coin doesn't need to be ancient, silver, or commemorative to be important. It only needs to survive where others didn't. The 1976 D-dimes survived an era of indifference. And indifference is the most destructive force in coin collecting. What makes this story even more compelling is that it isn't finished. Somewhere a handful of exceptional 1976 D. Roosevelt Dimes may still exist, hidden in old rolls, forgotten sets, or collections built by people who never realized what they had. The odds are slim, but they aren't zero. And that possibility keeps collectors searching, grading, and watching every new listing carefully. The market doesn't reward assumptions. It rewards evidence. And the evidence surrounding the 1976 D. Roosevelt dime is clear. While most examples are ordinary, the best survivors are anything but. They are artifacts of neglect, survivors of a system that never intended to preserve them. They exist because of chance, not design. That is what gives them power. This dime doesn't tell its story loudly. It whispers it. And only those willing to listen, those willing to look closer, understand why a coin once dismissed as pocket change now commands respect among serious collectors. Because sometimes the most valuable coins aren't the ones everyone saved. They're the ones everyone forgot. Coin number 4, they didn't tell anyone this coin would matter. No newspapers ran a story. No headlines warned collectors. Most Americans carried it in their pockets, completely unaware of the quiet fortune slipping through their hands. This is the story of the 1968 D. Roosevelt dime, a coin so ordinary at first glance that it blends into every drawer, every register, every coin jar. And yet, beneath its unassuming surface lies a history, a rarity, and a value that has stunned collectors and auction houses alike. 1968 was a year of change in America. The country was shifting, moving fast, full of energy, full of chaos, and the U.S. Mint had its own quiet revolution to manage. Millions of dimes were struck at the Denver Mint, produced for daily use, for commerce, for the streets, the cash registers, the parking meters. Speed and quantity were paramount. Perfection was optional. No one thought at the time that these coins would one day become objects of intense scrutiny, obsession, and immense monetary value. Pause for a moment. Imagine walking through a store in 1968, paying for a loaf of bread, handing the cashier a dime. That dime could have been one of the countless Denver strikes, ordinary in every way. But in the right condition, the perfect strike, untouched and preserved. That same coin could be worth tens of thousands of dollars today. The Roosevelt Dimes design is deceptively simple. Franklin D. Roosevelt's profile seems straightforward at first, but every line, every curl of his hair, every contour of his cheek is unforgiving. Weak strikes lose the subtle details almost immediately, leaving coins that look flat, lifeless, and ordinary. On the reverse, the torch, olive branch, and oak branch demand precision. If a coin spends even a short time in circulation, those details vanish. This is why only a small fraction of a 1968 D-dime survives with the perfection collectors crave. Think about that for a second. Millions of these coins were made, yet the odds of finding one in perfect condition are incredibly low. Each mark, each scratch, each imperfection reduces its collectible value dramatically. And yet, some survived. Some avoided circulation entirely. From the moment it left the Denver Mint, most 1968 D-dimes entered the world not as collectibles, but as tools. They were carried, counted, spent, and discarded. Bags were dumped, coins collided, surfaces were marred. Every scratch, every nick, every tiny imperfection erased potential value. The vast majority of these coins were doomed to become ordinary, unnoticed, and undervalued. Yet, somewhere in that enormous mintage, there were survivors. Coins that escaped circulation, coins that avoided contact, coins that remained untouched by time, neglect, and human hands. These survivors were never meant to be rare. But rarity doesn't require intent. It only requires survival. And when a coin survives against the odds, it transforms from pocket change into treasure. Collectors quickly realized the unique challenge of the 1968 D-dime. Unlike older silver issues, its value was not immediately apparent. It wasn't flashy. It didn't have silver. It didn't look different from thousands of others in circulation. Its scarcity existed quietly, invisibly, waiting for someone to notice. The true story of this coin was hidden in its condition, its strike quality, and the chance preservation of a tiny number of examples. Condition became everything. Circulated coins were dismissed, ungraded coins ignored, and raw survivors became the target of intense scrutiny. Those few examples that escaped the wear of decades were evaluated with microscopes, magnifying glasses, and professional grading standards. Each mark, each flaw, each point of luster determined whether a coin was worth 10 cents or tens of thousands of dollars. Mint errors added another layer of intrigue. Under the pressures of high-volume production, the Denver Mint sometimes produced coins with slight anomalies. Off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, and subtle doubling. To most eyes, these imperfections went unnoticed. To collectors, they were treasure. Errors in the right condition could multiply value exponentially, turning an overlooked dime into a one-of-a-kind artifact. And it's not just errors that matter. The quality of the strike, the sharpness of the lettering, the clarity of the torch bands, the absence of contact marks. All of these contribute to a coin's potential. Coins struck early in a fresh die often retained incredible detail, while later strikes from a fatigued die could look flat and lifeless. Finding an early, perfectly struck 1968 D-dime is like discovering order amidst chaos. It is an object of fascination precisely because it survived conditions meant to destroy perfection. Market dynamics further elevated its value. As more collectors recognized the scarcity of high-grade examples, demand escalated. Modern coins often appear in abundance at mid-range grades, but top-tier specimens of a 1968 D-dime became increasingly rare. Auction houses and private collectors began competing fiercely, and every certified high-grade coin represented a serious opportunity to secure a piece of history. Pause again. Imagine sitting in an auction, the hammer about to fall. Collectors lean forward. One of these coins, decades old yet perfect in condition, just appeared. The room holds its breath. Every detail counts. The rare perfection of a 1968 D. Roosevelt dime commands attention, and the price reflects its true scarcity. The coin's modern origin adds a paradoxical appeal. It's recent enough to be familiar, yet it possesses a rarity profile more akin to older historic coins. Age is not the defining factor, survival is. The 1968 D-Dime teaches collectors that careful preservation, attention to detail, and a willingness to look beyond the surface can reveal extraordinary value where most people see ordinary change. Collectors now understand that a coin's value is as much about what has survived as what was minted. While the mintage numbers for 1968 D-Dimes were in the hundreds of millions, only a minuscule fraction retained the quality needed to be highly collectible. Each coin that survived untouched represents not just luck, but the perfect combination of timing, care, and circumstance. Every high-grade 1968 D-Dime that appears on the market is a moment of history revisited. Dealers, investors, and collectors watch closely. Every auction listing is a potential opportunity, and each appearance reaffirms that this coin is not ordinary. It has proven itself over time to be valuable, sought after, and highly collectible. Then, there was the defining auction. While most 1968 D Roosevelt Dimes are worth little more than face value in circulated condition, one exceptional example changed the conversation entirely. Certified in pristine condition, verified by professional grading, it sold for an astonishing sum. The highest price ever recorded at auction for a 1968 D Roosevelt dime reached $90,000, confirming that even a modern coin, overlooked for decades, can command staggering value when rarity condition and collector demand align perfectly. This result was not luck. It was inevitability, extreme scarcity, careful preservation, and collectors recognizing the true potential of a modern dime collided to produce an unforgettable moment in numismatic history. The 1968 D-Dime exists as a warning. Never assume modern coins are worthless. Never overlook what appears ordinary. The most valuable coins are often those that blend into the background, waiting patiently for the right eye to see their worth. The story of this dime continues today. Somewhere a handful of uncirculated, perfectly struck examples may remain, hidden in coin rolls, forgotten collections, and drawers untouched for decades. The possibility of discovery keeps collectors vigilant, auctions competitive, and the market alive. Every new appearance has the potential to rewrite expectations, proving again that value is often found where most people never think to look. The 1968 D. Roosevelt dime is more than just a coin. It is a lesson in patience, attention, and the quiet accumulation of history. It is proof that fortune often lies in the small, overlooked places. It is a reminder that ordinary things under the right conditions can become extraordinary. And it is a testament to the collectors, enthusiasts, and historians who recognize that even a dime can carry a story worth tens of thousands of dollars. This coin captures the imagination. It challenges assumptions, rewrites expectations, and stands as a symbol of hidden value. Its rarity is not loud or flashy. It is subtle, persistent, and undeniable. And for those willing to look closely, study carefully, and understand the story, the 1968 D-Dime offers a chance to hold history, prestige, and astonishing value in the palm of their hand. Coin number 5. The moment it left the mint, no one realized what they were holding. It looked ordinary, familiar, the exact same size, weight, and color as every other dime in circulation. Yet hidden in plain sight was a coin that would one day shock collectors, confound historians, and rewrite what people thought they knew about modern U.S. coinage. This is the story of the 1965 no Mintmark Roosevelt dime, a coin that seems unremarkable, yet carries a value and rarity few could have predicted. 1965 was a turning point. The U.S. Mint had just transitioned away from silver in circulating coinage, and the country was undergoing a quiet shift in currency production. Dimes, quarters, and half dollars were now primarily composed of copper-nickel clad, rather than silver. The change was subtle, nearly invisible to the casual spender, yet it fundamentally altered the landscape of U.S. coins. Among the millions of dimes produced in that year, a very small fraction carried no mint mark, a detail that seems almost trivial, but in the world of numismatics, it is monumental. It is this detail that transformed a dime from ordinary to extraordinary. Imagine walking through a store in 1965. You pay for groceries with a handful of change. A dime drops from your hand into a cash register. Most people would never think twice. But the coin you just spent, or maybe pocketed, is quietly rare. It survived an era when circulation was harsh, when coins were exchanged endlessly, when few people considered that condition, preservation, and subtle details might one day make a coin priceless. The Roosevelt dime design is deceptively simple. Franklin D. Roosevelt's profile seems unassuming at first, but the design is unforgiving. Every curl of hair, every contour of the jaw, every feature of the cheek is vulnerable to wear. On the reverse, the torch, olive branch, and oak branch demand precision. Circulation erodes these details immediately. A coin that survives decades with its features intact is no longer ordinary. It is exceptional. In 1965, circulation was brutal. Dimes were handled relentlessly, tossed in pockets, jars, drawers, cash registers, and counting machines. The odds of a coin surviving decades without wear were microscopic, and yet a handful of 1965 no Mintmark dimes endured. These survivors would later become some of the most sought-after modern coins in American numismatics. Collectors quickly learned that rarity isn't always obvious. In this case, it isn't silver content, it isn't a commemorative design, it isn't even a flashy error. Its value lies in scarcity at the highest levels of preservation. While millions were minted, very few escaped the harsh reality of circulation intact. Condition is the defining factor, and those with pristine surfaces, sharp strikes, and full luster are nearly impossible to find. Mint errors and striking variations add another layer of fascination. Some 1965 no Mintmark dimes escaped the presses with subtle anomalies, off-center strikes, minor die cracks, or unusual doubling on the letters. These mistakes, almost invisible to the untrained eye, transform a coin into a unique artifact treasured by collectors worldwide. The 1965 no Mintmark dime challenges assumptions about value. Most people look at a modern dime and see 10 cents. They see something ordinary. They overlook history, scarcity, and the chance that a coin survived decades in nearly perfect condition. But in numismatics, survival is everything. Condition transforms this dime from simple pocket change into a highly prized collectible. Population reports and grading services revealed the truth. While most 1965 dimes are worth face value, the few that survived in mint state grades, untouched by circulation, became targets for collectors. The scarcity of these high-grade examples, combined with historical significance, created a market hungry for the best coins. Each new discovery set off waves of interest. Consider the psychological impact. Collectors know that coins like this don't appear often. They know that every coin graded at the highest levels represents not just luck, but history preserved. Every auction becomes an event. Every sale demonstrates just how far people are willing to go to acquire one of the few surviving top-grade examples. Modern coins often lack drama. They're abundant, seemingly ordinary, and easy to dismiss. Yet the 1965 no Mintmark dime defies that pattern. It quietly teaches a powerful lesson. Rarity is not always obvious, and the most valuable coins often look ordinary at first glance. Its story unfolds slowly, revealing itself only to those willing to examine, study, and understand what makes survival rare. And it is survival that defines its ultimate value. Conditions, strike quality, minimal contact marks, and original luster combine to separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. Coins struck early on fresh dies often show sharp features and exceptional appeal. Coins struck later or handled even briefly in circulation lose that perfection forever. This tiny detail, survival against the odds, is what drives collectors to search endlessly. The 1965 no Mintmark Roosevelt dime also illustrates a fundamental truth about modern coin collecting. Age alone does not determine value. It is preservation, rarity, and market recognition that elevate a coin into extraordinary territory. This dime demonstrates that the most overlooked coins, the ones people assume are worthless, can become treasures when examined with knowledge and expertise. And then came the moment that proved just how remarkable this coin could be. While many 1965 no Mintmark dimes are worth only their face value, an exceptional example in perfect condition went to auction and stunned the numismatic world. Certified by professional grading services, preserved with remarkable care, it commanded a price that shocked even the most experienced collectors. The highest price ever recorded at auction for 1965 no Mintmark Roosevelt dime reached an astonishing $270,000, cementing its status as one of the most valuable modern U.S. dimes ever sold. This result wasn't luck. It was inevitability. Extreme scarcity, perfect preservation, and the recognition of its historical significance collided to create a moment that changed how collectors view modern coins. The 1965 no Mintmark dime exists as a warning. Never underestimate ordinary-looking coins. Never assume modern pocket change is worthless. Sometimes the smallest, most overlooked coins hold the greatest value. Today, collectors continue to search. Rolls are opened carefully. Collections are examined. Dealers scrutinize every coin that comes their way. Somewhere, hidden in an untouched jar or forgotten drawer, another high-grade 1965 no Mintmark dime may exist, waiting to be discovered. Each appearance has the potential to set new records, to captivate collectors, and to prove once again that rarity can hide in plain sight. The 1965 no Mintmark Roosevelt dime is more than just a coin. It is a testament to history, a lesson in preservation, and a symbol of value hidden in plain sight. Its story reminds collectors that patience, careful examination, and attention to detail can uncover extraordinary fortune in even the most ordinary places. Every time one surfaces, it sparks fascination, excitement, and a reminder that even the smallest coins can carry the largest stories. Its rarity is subtle, persistent, and undeniable. And for those willing to recognize it, the 1965 no Mintmark dime offers a chance to hold history, prestige, and immense value, all in the palm of a single hand. And just like that, these coins have revealed their secrets. Coins you've held, spent, or ignored your entire life, suddenly transformed into treasures beyond imagination. From the 1965 no Mintmark Roosevelt dime that shocked the world at $270,000 to the 1968, 1976, 1977 no Mintmark, and 1983 P. Roosevelt dimes hiding untold stories in plain sight. Each one proves that the smallest pieces of metal can hold the biggest surprises. But here's the truth most people don't realize. These coins aren't just money. They are time capsules. Survivors of decades, sometimes centuries, preserved against all odds. Each scratch avoided, each detail preserved, adds to their mystery and to their value. And every collector who understands this knows that the next legendary coin could be anywhere, maybe even in your own pocket right now. If today's journey into these rare treasures amazed you, don't let it end here. Subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications so you never miss another hidden gem. Like this video, share it with fellow collectors, and comment below. Tell me which coin left you speechless, or if you've ever held a coin that made your heart race. And if you want more jaw-dropping discoveries, don't wait. Watch my previous video on the 2009 Lincoln commemorative pennies. Some of those pennies are so rare, so unexpected. Their value will literally blow your mind. Remember, in the world of coins, what seems ordinary can be extraordinary. History, mystery, and fortune can hide in the tiniest pieces of metal. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and keep looking, because the next coin to change your life could already be in your hands.